throwing the ball around then.
Go ahead and call this meeting to order, the Pittsburg City Commission. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will open up the meeting for public input. If there's anybody here this evening that wishes to speak on any matters, please come forward, state your name and what you're here to talk about. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed this evening?
Item F.
Item F. Okay,
There's no other items or questions. I'll move to approve the consent agenda with the exclusion of item F.
I second it.
been moved and seconded. Roll call vote.
Gray,
Aye.
Ketterman,
Aye.
Menzel.
Aye.
Okay, item F, approval of a modification order submitted by Westar Energy for the placement of a 48-watt LED street light to be located at 805 Turner Drive. Okay, go ahead, Chuck.
I don't have any question on that new light they're added. I have some calls, concerns with neighbors in the addition about the lights that's not properly working, starting with one on Turner Road in Michigan. I was just wondering, when Westar puts the new light in, if they will check all the lights in there to make sure they work like they're supposed to.
We'll give them a call and advise them to check them out there. If anyone has a specific address or light that's out, let us know or let Westar know directly, and we'll respond and get on it right away.
All right. No further questions. I move to approve item F.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider the following, excuse me, loan request, Point Royale project. Consider the recommendation of the Economic Development Advisory Committee to grant the request submitted by Point Royale Development Incorporated for a loan in the amount of $300,000 to be repaid over a 15-year period to be used to build a 20-house development off of East 31st Street.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a project that Becky Gray has worked on for some time, and she's going to give you the particulars of it in just a moment. How it came to the Economic Development Advisory Committee was a change in the value of the tax credits they were going to fund part of the project, and the EDAC has expressed a strong desire in the past to help with housing projects, since housing is such an issue in our community, particularly with the jobs that we've created over the last few years. Workforce development is becoming a big key to economic development, and obviously housing is obviously a big part of that. So there's a big tie between economic development and housing. So the EDAC has expressed an interest in helping with projects like this. I want to be clear that on the request, it is for a repayable loan, so it would be repaid to the city. It would not be forgiven. But before we go into the particulars, I'd like to ask Becky to maybe come up and walk you through exactly what that looks like.
Sure. So I'll speak about the development and leave the loan to Blake, because that's his area of expertise. But you may remember that we brought this project before you last year. At the time, he was proposing to build 29 homes in 3 different locations around town. Because of the speculation that the tax credit amounts are going to decrease considerably from what they have been in the years past, he scaled his project back. So now it's 20 homes. It's located between 31st and Atkinson in the northeast quadrant of our community. So that is a quadrant that is identified as a census tract that could use more affordable housing. Mr. Carlson is proposing to build 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family homes with garages. I had some I was projecting. I think you have them in front of you. An example of what those houses might look like, and also an example of the floor plan. One of the neat things about how he operates his programs is he does the property maintenance. His company maintains, does the rental maintenance, etc. for 15 years. At the end of that 15 years, these houses will become for sale in the open market. If a person who is residing in the house wishes to purchase the house, they're able to do that. And they get a discount based on how long they've been in the house. I think it was 5% per year. So if they've been in that house for 10 years, they end up getting 50% of the market rate of that house reduced on the purchase price. So in essence, it's a home ownership program. We're going to work with the Chamber and our economic development team to market the rental of these homes through our employers, so that we might be able to get the entry-level wage earners, get them into these brand new homes at a very affordable rate that they can then buy after they build up their capital. Did y'all have any questions about how that works? Okay, I'll let Blake talk about the financials then. Thank you.
And real quickly, the IT guys were able to get the pictures up on the screen just for the folks at home to see what kinds of homes we're looking at. Very, very attractive, very well done, and would be called the Highlands of Pittsburgh. So the recommendation from the EDAC was to allocate the loan of $300,000 to be repaid to the city over a 15-year period. No interest on this, which is consistent with what other cities in southeast Kansas have been able to offer Point Royale. One of the most attractive things for the EDAC is that the city wouldn't pay their money until the project was done. So there's virtually no risk to the city. The project for some reason doesn't get done, then the city's funds would not be requested. It would be on the tail end of the project, which is how we prefer to structure it. So the EDAC felt it was a good project. Again, anytime we can create more housing, that makes it easier for us to attract more people, more employees, which then helps us attract more business to Pittsburgh in terms of economic development. So between Becky and myself, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I have a couple. Can you expand a little bit on how the city will get its money back if there is any kind of default or issue in terms of repayment? And then two, before I forget it, that's why I've been throwing it out there. When the question comes up with other developers in town in terms of how these dollars were obtained and used through the EDAC, did the EDAC have any discussion about these dollars being available to other developers in town who are also looking to develop housing, developments or build on lots that are currently vacant?
Certainly.
And because I've had just a couple comments about kind of this lack of balance, or we're tipping the balance from a competitive standpoint for people who might be coming in and doing projects like this versus other developers who might be in town and would otherwise want to have access to these dollars. So maybe you could just speak on that briefly.
Absolutely. To answer your first question, the city would have a first mortgage on these homes. So if there were to be any kind of default, we don't prefer for it to happen that way, but if for some reason there were to be a default, the city would take ownership of the homes. And that's typically how we try to structure projects as well. To answer your second question, the city has a history of helping housing developers. One instance is the homes south of the hospital. The city was able to partner with developers in terms of infrastructure. So there's a track record there of city using economic development dollars to spur housing because of its effect on economic development. But I think the EDAC is hoping that this is a sign to developers, whether they be in our community or outside the region looking into Pittsburgh, that we're ready to step up and we're ready to help developers that want to make an investment, particularly in terms of housing in our community. So I would say that the same offer that's being made to Point Royale would be applicable to any other developers that may be interested.
What about any local developers that already own property here? Are there any of those funds that are available to help them expand or redevelop the property that they already have?
Property they already have?
Yeah.
We certainly will talk to them. We've had a little bit of history over the last couple of months, even with commercial properties, people that take old rundown buildings and then invest a lot of money into them. We've looked at different ways that the city can help partner. The landowner or the property owner is still going to cover the large majority of those costs, but we've made inroads in trying to step up and help those partners, particularly when they're looking at a large investment like this. If the city can play a role either with gap financing like we are with this project with very favorable terms of repayment or a direct injection into the project, that's something that we would be open to discussing with any property developer.
What's the rent on these homes, Blake?
Know that, Becky?
Yeah, let's see.
Mr. Carlson is going to set aside 10 units at $465 a month and 10 units at $499 a month. Now you have to, there's an income eligibility based on the area median income. So the lower rent ones are for households that are earning 50% of the area median income, which is roughly $20,000 for a single person. And then the 60% area median income households would pay $499. Extremely affordable.
Thanks.
I don't either.
I don't have any. I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next two items that dealt with the farmer's market, there was a request to hold those till the next meeting so an individual can be here. So we're gonna pull those off the agenda tonight and we'll take those up on the 28th. So the next item will be item D, engineering design agreement, 20th and the bypass concrete repairs. Staff is requesting governing body approval of the scope of work to be performed under the master service agreement between the city and Trans Systems for design services for the concrete overlay on south leg of Highway 69 bypass and 20th Street intersection, not to exceed $66,400. Cameron.
Welcome. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. This is an agreement that would provide for the design of that concrete overlay replacement. That section of the 69 bypass that's inside the city is actually the city's responsibility for maintenance of it. We talked with KDOT. They're not able to time up their project, their leg of it, the north half, with our project. So we're looking at moving forward, especially if you look at the south end where it connects back into the asphalt pavement. That concrete is very broken down, and we're planning on trying to put together the funding to be able to replace that next year. With this design, they'll be looking at probably going from a 3-inch overlay, concrete overlay, making that a 6-inch. They'll remove the 3-inch panels, likely mill down 3 more inches, and then put back 6-inch panels, 6-inch thick panels, and that allow our joint spacing to be on 6-foot centers versus 3-foot, which right now, as you see, most folks driving through there will travel right over those joints. And that concrete, I think, was put in early 2000 and had about a 12-year lifespan was the design length. So we're at about year 14, 15 on it, so it's definitely at the end of its useful life. One of the issues that had come up in talking with KDOT, they had met with staff back in 2014, 2015 before I came on board. The state had done some geotech, worked on their side of it, and found that where there had been no water before, there's water now that saturated the base underneath that, and they believe that is leading to part of the failure there. So what we're doing as part of this design is evaluating the city's portion of that to see if the same thing has occurred on the south leg of that intersection, and see about the possibility of designing an under drain system if it's warranted.
Did the state have any idea when they might be able to do the northern part of that, their part?
No. I talked with the local representative. They're talking 2019, 2020 at best. That was optimistic, and I say, depending on how it holds up and other roads, don't know where that'll fall into the priorities once they do think that they'll get some funding back.
I have no further questions, comments.
Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Good job,
Thank you,
Cameron.
Cameron. Non-agenda reports and requests, bi-monthly budget review.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Evening.
Amy.
Uh, 2016 is over with, and I finally got all my final numbers in, I believe, all the invoices in from last year. So I thought it was time to give the year-end wrap-up review. As you can see, it's all green, which is good. The revenues at the very bottom there came in at 100%. We spent about 91% of the expenditures that were budgeted. So we started the year with $9.5 million, and we finished the year with $11.4 million. Does anyone have any questions? I don't really have any areas. Well, the sales tax for the year was pretty flat compared to 2015. It was only up 0.17% compared to 2015, so pretty flat. I'm hoping for a better performance in this fiscal year.
Do you know what that would equate to dollar-wise off the top of your head, Jamie?
Now, it's probably around less than $50,000 difference, or, yeah.
What did we budget for this year? I can't remember. What did we just budget? 1%?
I got 1% for 2017. So far, for January, I got January sales tax this year, and it's up 0.87, so it's close to 1%, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. Another thing, for the last couple of years, I've been putting away a little bit of money in the utility system in the capital reserves. And we haven't done the trickling filters because we've been waiting for a design and build on them. So I've got $400,000 set aside for the trickling filters at the wastewater plant. And then I got another $400,000 sitting in the capital reserves for the south water tower. And I'm thinking by the end of this year, going into next year, we'll be able to bid that out in 2018 for the south water tower to get that done. The sandblasting and painting, all that. It's probably going to be around $700,000 total. We won't have to bond it out that way, though. Save interest on that. So, anybody got any questions?
I think Jamie does an outstanding job on this. If there's two things you want to take out of this report, because there's a lot of numbers and a lot of lines and even a lot of colors. If you look at revenues, the final green box at the bottom says 100. On my screen, I think it says 100.09, but I've got trifocals, a cold, and it's pretty blurry anyway, so I may not be right, but it's over 100%. So if you compare that number to expenditures, the bottom right, you're coming in at 90.67.
About 91%.
I mean, just in general, it's good to know that we're bringing in more money than we budgeted and we're spending less than we planned. Usually, if you have a balanced budget and you do those two things, you're going to continue to bank money, which is what our goal is every year. So well done, and I think a lot of that really goes to the staff who they each have an individual budget and they can spend against that all year long. So the fact that they're not just, hey, I've got $100 left at the end of the month, let's go spend it. It's reflected in those numbers, and it says a lot about how they're spending their budgets. Thanks, everybody.
And just the 1% for the sales tax, that included what we thought we were going to get from the casino as well once it opens up.
No, I haven't.
Or you left that out?
In the
I couldn't remember.
2017 budget, I just got a separate revenue line I created called casino revenue because I don't know how all that's going to play out yet.
Okay.
I budgeted $150,000 this year for probably the fourth quarter. We'll start collecting it. So
Right. I figured it would.
whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I won't have a feel for that until we get into probably 6 months of revenues on it.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what the dollar amount was that we put in there for that. Okay.
I tried to be conservative. I don't wanna overinflate that stuff.
Sure.
Amy?
Thanks.
Thanks, sir, appreciate it.
Dr. Bailey?
And Commissioners, last time we talked about EPA doing investigation up near 21st and Free King Highway. And progression was contingent upon their approval, and we did receive that. So those notices will be going out, and we told you we'd tell that when it happened, and it is happening. So just kind of keep you up to speed.
They'll be sending out the notices.
Notices and permission for property access.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other items?
That's all we have, Mayor.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? We're adjourned.